Welcome to my channel Echoes of Coin. What if I told you a tiny, forgotten coin from 1969 could hold a story far bigger than its value? It looks simple, just a small bronze 2-cent coin from South Africa. But here's the twist. This coin comes from one of the most powerful and controversial periods in history, and it's silently passed through thousands of hands, collecting stories you can't even see. And the craziest part? Some of these coins today are worth far more than you think. So before you ignore a small coin again, take a closer look, because you might be holding history without even realizing it. Have you ever held a coin so small, yet so full of hidden history, that it feels like you're holding a forgotten story in your hand? Because the 1969 South African 2-cent coin is exactly that. At first glance, it looks ordinary. A simple copper coin. Nothing flashy. Nothing rare-looking. But here's the twist. This tiny coin comes from a time when South Africa was going through one of the most intense and controversial periods in its history. And once you understand that, this coin suddenly becomes something much more powerful than just currency. It becomes a silent witness, a storyteller, a piece of history frozen in metal. Now imagine this. It's the year 1969. The world is changing fast. The Cold War is at its peak. Humans are about to land on the moon. Technology is evolving. But in South Africa, things are very different. The country is deep in the era of apartheid, a system that separated people based on race. And during this time, even the coins people used every day carried the identity of the nation, its leadership, and its political structure. So when you look at a 2-cent coin from 1969, you're not just looking at money. You're looking at a piece of a very complex story. Let's take a closer look at the coin itself. The 1969 South African 2-cent coin is made of bronze. That gives it that warm, reddish-brown color, the kind that slowly darkens over time. And here's something interesting. Coins made of bronze tend to age beautifully. They develop a natural patina, a kind of surface tone that collectors actually love. So even if this coin looks old, that old look might actually make it more attractive to collectors. Now let's flip the coin. On one side, you'll see the coat of arms of South Africa used during that period. This design wasn't just decorative. It represented authority, governance, and national identity. Above it, you'll find the name of the country written in both English and Afrikaans. South Africa and Suid-Africa. This dual-language design reflects the political structure of the time. And below, the year 1969 is clearly stamped. Simple, clean, but meaningful, because that year tells us exactly where this coin belongs in history. Now here's where things get even more interesting. The value 2 cents is displayed clearly on the other side. But think about this for a moment. Back then, 2 cents actually had purchasing power. You could buy small items. It had value in everyday life. Today, it feels almost insignificant. And that's the beauty of coins like this. They show us how economies evolve, how inflation changes value, and how something once useful becomes a collectible. But wait, here's something most people don't realize. Not all 1969 2-cent coins are equal. Yes, they look the same at first glance, but their value can vary depending on condition. A coin that's worn out, scratched, and faded might only be worth a few cents. But a coin in uncirculated condition, one that looks almost new, can be worth significantly more. And collectors love coins that still have their original shine. Now imagine finding one of these coins in perfect condition. No scratches. No heavy wear. Just that original bronze glow. That's the kind of coin that makes collectors pause, look closer, and sometimes pay a premium. But here's another twist. The real value of this coin isn't just in money. It's in its story. Because this coin existed during a time when millions of people in South Africa were living under strict laws and limitations. It passed through countless hands, shopkeepers, workers, families. Each transaction, each exchange adds to its invisible history. And today, when you hold that same coin, you're connected to all those moments. Now let's talk about rarity. Is the 1969 2-cent coin rare? The honest answer is not extremely rare. Millions were minted. But that doesn't mean it's worthless. Because rarity isn't the only thing collectors care about. Condition, demand, and historical significance all play a role. And this coin checks all those boxes, especially for collectors interested in South African history. Here's something else that might surprise you. Coins from the apartheid era are becoming, and just when you think you've understood this coin, there's another layer waiting to be uncovered. Because coins don't just tell us about money, they tell us about power. Think about it. Every coin is officially approved, designed, and released by a government. That means every detail, from the symbols to the language, is carefully chosen. Nothing is random. And the 1969 South African 2-cent coin is no exception. Now pause for a second. Why would a country put its coat of arms on a tiny coin? Because coins travel. They reach every corner of society, from the richest neighborhoods to the poorest streets. And that means every single person sees that symbol, again, and again, and again. It becomes a constant reminder of authority, of control, of identity. Now imagine holding that coin in 1969. You're not thinking about history. You're not thinking about collectors. You're just using it, buying bread, paying for transport, living your daily life. But without realizing it, you're holding something that decades later people will study, collect, and talk about. That's the hidden magic of coins. Let's go deeper. The metal itself, bronze, wasn't chosen randomly either. Bronze coins are durable. They can survive years of circulation, thousands of transactions, endless handling. And yet, they endure, just like history itself. Worn, but never erased. And here's something fascinating. If you examine different 1969 2-cent coins closely, you might notice slight differences. Tiny marks, wear patterns, color tones. Each one is unique, because each coin lived a different life. One might have stayed in a bank vault for years, while another traveled through markets, shops, and hands every single day. Now think about that journey. A single coin, passing from person to person. A worker earns it. A shopkeeper receives it. A child might even play with it. And with every exchange, the coin collects invisible stories. Stories we can't see, but stories that are still there. And this is where collectors see something special. They don't just see metal. They see history you can hold. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you even more. Mistakes. Yes, minting errors. Sometimes, during production, small errors happen. Maybe the strike isn't perfect. Maybe the design is slightly off. Maybe there's a misalignment. And guess what? Those mistakes can actually make a coin more valuable, because they're rare. And collectors love rare things. So if you ever come across a 1969 2-cent coin, don't just look at it casually. Inspect it carefully, because you might be holding something unusual, something that others have missed. Now here's another angle most people never think about. Why did coins like the 2-cent eventually disappear? Why don't we use them anymore? The answer is simple: inflation. Over time, the value of money changes. What once had buying power slowly becomes insignificant. And eventually, it's removed from circulation. But here's the interesting part. When coins disappear from everyday use, they don't disappear completely. And this is where collectors see something special. They don't just see metal. They see history you can hold. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you even more. Mistakes. Yes, minting errors. Sometimes, during production, small errors happen. Maybe the strike isn't perfect. Maybe the design is slightly off. Maybe there's a misalignment. And guess what? Those mistakes can actually make a coin more valuable, because they're rare. And collectors love rare things. So if you ever come across a 1969 2-cent coin, don't just look at it casually. Inspect it carefully, because you might be holding something unusual, something that others have missed. Now here's another angle most people never think about. Why did coins like the 2-cent eventually disappear? Why don't we use them anymore? The answer is simple: inflation. Over time, the value of money changes. What once had buying power slowly becomes insignificant, and eventually, it's removed from circulation. But here's the interesting part. When coins disappear from everyday use, they don't disappear completely. The excitement of finding something rare, the satisfaction of completing a set, and the connection to history. Imagine a collector who has coins from every year, but they're missing 1969. That one missing piece becomes important, valuable, desired, and suddenly your small coin becomes something they really want. And that's when value changes. Not because the coin changed, but because demand changed. Here's a powerful thought. Value is not always about what something is. It's about what someone is willing to give for it. Now let's bring this back to you. Right now, somewhere, maybe even close to you, there could be a 1969 2-cent coin, hidden in an old box, forgotten in a drawer, mixed with other coins, waiting for someone to notice it, to pick it up, to look closer, to realize this isn't just a coin, this is a piece of time. And that's the moment everything changes. Because once you see a coin like this differently, you can never look at coins the same way again. Every coin becomes a mystery, a story, a hidden treasure. And the 1969 South African 2-cent coin? It may be small, it may seem ordinary, but behind that simple design is a world of history, value, and untold stories. And who knows, the next time you find one, you might not just see a coin, you might see something far more valuable.